Hi everyone, welcome again to Bake Your Way Kitchen. On today's video we're actually doing yet another chocolate chip cookie recipe. Now, I never thought I was going to add another one to my channel, but I discovered actually this is an adaptation from America's Test Kitchen. They have a book called The Science of Cooking, so definitely go check that one out. And they have a recipe. I changed up I tweaked a few of the ingredients a little bit, but overall it's pretty much almost identical. And it's so good, and I actually made this originally a couple months ago, and I brought it somewhere, and they were a huge hit, and I've made it every time. And this isn't a convention, your typical beat softened butter and then add in your sugar. This recipe is a little different, and the method's a little more unique. And so I thought I would do a video because I thought I really love this. I think all of you will really love this, and all of you can gain from it. So it's absolutely delicious, and I'm so excited to be making it again. Right now, sorry, there's a piece of fluff or something on there. So I've got here 140 grams, which is about 10 tablespoons of unsalted butter, or salted. I think actually this is salted. If you see my other videos, you will notice that I've had a lot of salted butter, and it's because it's been on sale. And fun note about butter is that you can actually, if it is on sale, a good quality butter, which doesn't usually happen here, but it does happen occasionally, and because butter is so expensive, you can stock up and freeze butter. You can freeze butter, it lasts, I don't know, months. It works every time. I highly recommend it because it can be really expensive. So I got 10 tablespoons here. Now you'll notice if you go to the actual video recipe, it calls for 14 tablespoons of butter. We're going to add another 4 tablespoons shortly. But right now we're going to bring this over to the stove, and what we're doing is creating a brown butter, which essentially is melting this butter. So you can melt this from ice cold in the fridge. It doesn't need to be softened at room temperature. But we're going to melt this down in our saucepan over medium-high heat. We're gonna bring it up to a boil, then simmer it down for about 3 or 4 minutes till we have a brown butter. And a brown butter has that, you'll notice it'll have that brown tinge. And the reason we're making a brown butter is it really richens the butter flavor. So it really enhances the flavor of the cookie. So I'm going to bring this over to the stove, and I will show you what it looks like. The butter's now completely melted over medium-high heat, and you can see it's already starting to bubble. At this point, we're looking at another 3 or 4 minutes. What you're really looking for is for that brown tinge color to come through, and you will notice it starts to pop a bit. Like there'll be bubble pops, so I'll show you what that looks like in just a couple minutes. I'm hoping the camera will pick this up, but I'm noticing rapidly moving bubbles. Like you'll see this entire top has foamed and the bubbles are rapidly moving, and you can see the tinges of brown on the top. That is a sign we are done here. So I'm going to transfer this back, and we're going to transfer this to a heat-proof bowl. Here we go, transferring to a heat-proof bowl. You can see that brown color. It actually smells delicious. Even though it's just butter, that brown butter really richens that butter flavor, so that's why it smells so good. So what we're going to do right now is add in our remaining 4 tablespoons, which is about 56 grams, or about 2 ounces of butter. And we're just going to stir this in. Just move this out of the way so you can see a little better. And we're going to continue to stir this. I guarantee you, if you chop this, you should chop your 4 tablespoons of butter. It can be from right out of the fridge. The butter, this mixture, it's so hot that your butter will melt. If by chance it does not melt, that probably means you did not put the brown butter on the stove long enough. And I mean, as a very worst case scenario, you can put this in the microwave until everything's melted. But you can see everything's melting very quickly. And see this brown color that we got here? So one of the reasons why we add in the cold butter after the brown butter is, one, to cool down the temperature of the butter, and also to get a better balance with the fats, because we're changing the balance when we're cooking it on the stove. Okay, so now we've added in, you can see that all of that cold butter has melted into the brown butter mixture. We're going to go ahead and add in our sugar, and using a whisk we can just add this in. This will also cool down the temperature of the butter, so that by the time we get to the chocolate later on, you won't have to worry about the chocolate melting, luckily. And this just looks absolutely amazing. Add in some vanilla. Here we go. You could add a pinch of salt here if you really wanted to at this stage, but I usually add salt with the dry ingredients. I believe in the original recipe they called to have it in here, but I think it's fine to just add it in with the rest of the dry ingredients. Now, this is an optional step. I do this with a lot of cookies that I make, especially chocolate chip. I like to add a bit of, this case it's almond butter, but peanut butter or almond butter, like a tablespoon. I know it sounds weird, but you will definitely notice that addition, and it complements, I find, chocolate chip cookies so well. Just like the espresso powder with anything chocolate, I think with cookies, just adding a little bit of nut butter, any type of nut butter, it really, you will notice it. It will really, I do it almost every time. I love doing it that way. Okay, so this is where things get a little interesting. So you beat this for about a minute once you've incorporated the sugar, the vanilla, and so what we're going to do now is we're going to let this sit, and we're going to do stages. So I'm going to let this mixture sit for 2 minutes, and then I'm going to stir it again for 30 seconds, and then I'm going to do the 2 minutes, pause again, and stir again, pause, and then stir again. So 30-second mixes 3 times, 2 minutes between each stirring, and this is to help thicken up our batter. Alright, so once you've added in your vanilla, we can add in 1 egg and an egg yolk, and stir kind of quickly because this mixture is still a little bit warm, so you don't want to curdle the eggs. So that you can see the eggs really help smooth out, like after you've started adding in the sugar and the vanilla. The mixture looks like a mess, but this is where eggs really shine, because they really help to smoothen everything out and bring everything together. So it's 1 egg and an egg yolk, and the egg yolk is to richen up the flavor even more of our cookie base. So just give this a quick mix for about 30 seconds. Okay, so this is where things get interesting. This is where this kind of really, it makes this recipe unique from most other cookie recipes. We have our mixture here. This is what it should look like. And I'm going to let this sit for 2 minutes, and then I'm going to stir for about 30 seconds, and then stop for 30 seconds, or stop for 2 minutes, stir for 30 seconds again, and then stop for 2 minutes, stir again. So 3 stirs, 3 30-second stirs, 2 minutes between each one, and this is to help thicken up our batter before adding in our dry ingredients and our chocolate. Like, we're almost at the end here. While this is happening, you can preheat your oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit, 180 degrees Celsius. In the original recipe it calls for about 375, but I tend to find, I sometimes even go as low as 340. I think this cookie works better at a lower temperature, so I'll be back. So you can get that, and then get a cookie sheet and parchment paper ready while you're waiting for that 2 minutes to be up. Okay, so I'm giving this the first stir. I can already tell it's thickened up a bit. So I'm going to mix this for another 20 seconds or so. Pause for 2 minutes, and then I'll be stirring again. Okay, second stir. You should notice that it has thickened up more. This is what it looks like. And let me tell you, you could just like get a teaspoon and just try this butter sugar mixture. It is so good. It's so, I mean, more so than typical because of that brown butter flavor, just the extra effort that we put in here. So one more stir. Alright, so now we're done. Our mixture has thickened up quite a bit from where it started. And now we're ready to add in our dry ingredients and chocolate and toasted nuts. So what we've got here is just over half a pound, about 235 grams of all-purpose flour. That's a little bit over 8 ounces. I've added in also about 1/3 of a teaspoon to half a teaspoon of espresso powder and about half a teaspoon of salt. If you use unsalted butter, you can add about a teaspoon of salt. So we're going to add this in. Now this is optional. I always add in a little bit, but you don't have to. This is about 1/3 of a cup of toasted almonds, and these are sliced almonds that I just toasted in the oven. And then I've got about 210 grams, a little bit more than... I find cookie recipes, anytime you scan through them, they always underestimate the amount of chocolate people want. So I add about almost half a pound, so about 220 grams I've got here, which is just under 8 ounces. And now we're going to slowly combine. This is the part I love, because this is where it all turns into the dough that everyone loves. So we're just going to mix this slowly. Just fold it in, just gently, because we don't want to overmix. We're just literally mixing to combine. So just sides to the middle, sides to the middle, sides to the middle. You can see none of the chocolate's melting because we added in that cold butter, and this has had a lot of other stuff added to it between, so it's not, you don't have that risk. The first time I made this, I completely screwed up, and I was not paying close enough attention. This is why you gotta pay close enough attention to recipes. So now this is mixed. You will notice this cookie recipe, it tends to be a little messy to roll by hand, so you should be using a spoon or a cookie scoop to get this on here. Now this is completely up to you. I like to use this large. This is just under 1/4 cup. I think this is about maybe 1/5 of a cup. I don't know. It's like, it's not the full out 1/4 cup, but you could use up to a 1/4 cup scoop, or you could use just a basic 2 or 3 teaspoon cookie scoop. However big or small you want, that's how you can do it. Line a cookie sheet with parchment paper and go to town. And the thing with this is that, again, I stress this in all my baking videos, is that all ovens are different. I would say after 7 minutes you're going to want to start watching to see how the cookie's looking. Everyone likes them to turn out a little bit differently. Some like them more crispy, some like them soft and chewy. Okay, I apologize for all the interruptions. I've had phones ringing, I've had doors knocked, I've had people coming in and out. There's been tons of things that have gotten in the way, so I apologize for that. Anyway, I got my cookie here. We're going to just scoop it on here. And just literally, I just wanted to give you... Yes, I'm kind of using an excuse to try this, but it's so good. I'm telling you, this over another cookie dough, you won't go back. It's so delicious. That brown butter makes all the difference. So you want to keep scooping. You want to give, if you're using a scoop like this, a large scoop, you want to really leave some room. So at least maybe 2-3 inches, because these are going to spread out. And especially if you're cooking at a lower temperature, they're more likely to spread more. So, I mean, if you want them to stay completely, if you want them to stay kind of very thick and small, then you can cook it at faster at a high temperature, and it won't do that as much. So I'm just going to continue to scoop these on, and then I will show you the next step. Okay, so the oven's preheated. These are going to go in. So excited. This is probably going to be, at least in my oven, for a soft, chewy texture, which is what I'm looking for. Probably about 10 or 12 minutes, but I'll let you know how long it takes in my oven, and I'll show you what to look for when I take them out. I took these out of the oven about 5-6 minutes ago, so I've let them kind of sit out. You can tell the edges have that nice golden brown color. The room smells incredible, of course. I've got a wire rack here that I'm going to transfer these to using just an offset spatula or a flat edge spatula, whatever you got. And you can tell, so like as always with any cookie, when they're right out of the oven, pretty much transferring them is a suicide mission. They're just going to fall apart. But yeah, so you got to give them a few minutes, and then they'll be easy to transfer, just like that. And if after a few minutes they're still falling apart, it's probably because they're undercooked. Which isn't always a bad thing. I've undercooked brownies a lot of the time because it's just so good. Especially like the next day. Oh my gosh, undercooked brownies the next day. I think I've talked about that before in another video. I'm telling you, I know it sounds weird, but it's so good. Like the flavor intensifies like you wouldn't believe. So I'm going to transfer these over here and we're going to give one a try. Now, with the size of the cookie scoop I used the OXO large cookie scoop, which I think is like I don't know exactly, I think it's 3 tablespoons. I think that was the size. And that yielded for me about 17 and a half cookies. And I say 17 and a half because the last one was like a half of one, half size. So if you'd use a quarter, I've done this recipe with a 1/4 cup scoop, it's about a dozen that it yields, 12 or 13. So I'm going to make some more, but actually I'll do that after because I think we should just give one a try. But actually, you know what? I'm going to get some milk out. We got to make this. We gotta make something out of this. So I'll be right back. Got some milk here, and I got a cookie from the cookie rack here. So we're going to give this a try. It's still so soft and so warm. Oh my gosh, and the gooey chocolate. And make sure to use like a trio of chocolate, like a dark and a milk and a white. I didn't have any milk, so I just did dark and white chocolate, but let's see. Oh my god. The brown butter flavor, those toasted almonds, a little bit of that almond butter I talked about adding in with the butter mixture. It's all coming through here. Plus the vanilla bean paste that we added, plus the delicious chocolate. You gotta have this with milk. This recipe requires milk. I'm gonna actually put that on the ingredients list. Milk. It's so delicious, and oh my goodness, it's like melting in my hands. It's so good. I hope you give this messy, delicious recipe a try. Head over to bakeyourway.com for full recipe details. Visit bakeyourway.com for more, and I'll see you in the next video.